Okay. All right. So hello and welcome to the 2021 Israel Gap Year Fair hosted by the Israel Program Department of the Zionist Federation of Australia and Masa Israel Journey. My name is Sarit Rava and I am the Israel Program Director at the ZFA and the Australian representative for Masa Israel Journey. I would also like to introduce today Josh. Is Josh here? He might not have logged just in yet. He will be, and I'll get him to wave when he does. Josh is our marketing assistant and go-to guy when it comes to choosing a gap year program. Josh and myself both participate in gap year programs in Israel. Myself many years ago, Josh more recently, and we are both very excited to present the exciting and inspiring once-in-a-lifetime gap year programs on offer through Masa Israel Journey. Without further ado, I'd like to give a very warm welcome to Ginette Searle, CEO of the Zionist Federation of Australia. Ginette, I hand the virtual mic over to you.
Thank you, Sarit, and welcome to everybody here with us this afternoon. 2020 has definitely been a challenging year and an uncertain year. But of all the things that we know about 2021, for all the things that we don't know, what we do know is that we are working with cautious optimism and with a lot of hope and enthusiasm towards the many opportunities for school leavers to participate in Masa gap year programs in Israel in 2021. One thing I want to assure you of, I'm a mother of 4 kids who've done Masa programs. The experience is transformational. It's a fantastic year. It's a year of development. It's a year of learning, and it's a year of wonder, I think, for everybody who does the program. Hi, Josh. Josh is here with us now. But one of the reasons that Masa is the standout option for gap year, whether in a regular year or in a complicated year like 2021 might be, is because of the security that Masa does give you. It's a program which is backed, or it's an organization which is backed by the Jewish Agency and the government of Israel. It provides not only the accreditation and the security in knowing that the program is sound educationally, logistically, in terms of supervision, but most importantly in this day and age, in terms of health and safety and security. We know that things might change. We learned that this year. Things can be volatile, they can change, they can be flexible. And Masa will be flexible along with it, always making sure, together with the ZFA and your program providers, that the program that your child, or that you, if you're a student about to finish year 12, participates in is safe, is healthy, and provides all the opportunities within the mantra that health and well-being of participants is the very first priority. Today, you're going to have the opportunity to learn about a lot of the programs, to learn about the Masa support that you can get. So it's going to go through that very soon. But really, we encourage you all to ask questions, to speak to your program providers, to speak to Josh, to speak to Sarit, to speak to us today or tomorrow or any time in the next couple of months, to learn all about the programs that you're interested in, even programs that you may not have heard about before, and embrace the concept that 2021 could be the gap year that you've always dreamed about, even if it's not in exactly the same way that you always thought it might be. So with that, I'm going to hand back to Sarit and leave it to her to go through all the details. Thank you, Sarit.
Thanks, Josh. Thank you, Ginette. And Josh, there he is. Just wave. Yep, great. All right, so with the few minutes that we have left before our program sessions start, I would like to run through some very important information regarding Masa Israel Journey, the funding through Masa, and important safety and security information as well. Please feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and that goes for the same for any of the program sessions today. Our program reps are all here to answer any of your questions along the way as well. Okay, we do have a question for Ginette. Ginette.
Yep. So the question from Robert Hain, just wondering what you know so far, if anything, for those of us in Melbourne, almost no international flights, how might it work? Also, any issues with someone deferring their gap year and doing it on a later year? So the answer to your second question is a simpler one. That's always been an option. You can always do your gap year in the middle of university, at the beginning of university, after university. In fact, Sarit will go through that Masa is possible to be, you can do a Masa program up until the age of 30. Different programs will be relevant at that age, but that is definitely always possible. In terms of international flights, that's likely to change, and I have no more information than you do. Our advice with any program, with any travel arrangements that you might make, is that you should be dealing with a travel agent, with the travel agent that you know and trust, because they'll be able to provide the best information at the time for you. And some of your programs will be working with particular agents and will recommend that. Otherwise, go with one that you trust. That's pretty much all we know at the moment. We don't know when the travel restrictions will change, but yeah, that's probably as much as we can say now. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you, Ginette. All right, so I will be answering some of these questions as well. So maybe wait till the end of the presentation if you have any questions. We'll definitely answer after we've sort of gone through the presentation. So thank you, Ginette, again. And just bear with me and we will start. Okay, so a little bit about Masa. So Masa is Our Journey is the global leader in immersive international career development and leadership experiences in Israel for young Jewish adults aged 18 to 30. In terms of what Masa offers and the types of programs, they do range from 5 to 12 months. There are programs that start January, February. There are programs that start throughout the year, but most of our programs do start January, February time, and there is the option of starting programs in August and September as well. And some of our programs range from volunteer and community service programs, internship and career development programs, academic programs, Jewish studies programs, and what we're all here for today, gap year programs, which incorporate all of the above as well. So in terms of Masa's, how it was founded in 2004. It is a public service organization created by the government of Israel and the Jewish Agency for Israel. One of our main supporters and funders is Keren HaYesod. You might know them as UIA or United Israel Appeal. And without their generous support and funding, many of our participants would not be able to go to Israel. So we thank all of our funders and supporters. Our local partner in Australia is the Zionist Federation of Australia. Since 2004, Masa has proudly sent over 150,000 participants from over 60 countries to Israel to experience long-term immersive programs. Masa Israel Journey is the umbrella organization for over 200 programs, and those range from gap year programs to internship, career programs, up until the age of 30. Masa Israel Journey is a global company, so there are representatives all over the world. Europe, South America, North America, and then there's obviously Josh and myself in Australia, but that does mean that Masa is global. We have we have participants and fellows from all over the world, so we really are a global community. So why Masa Gap Year Program? Well, Masa Gap Year programs are all about personal and professional growth. We've had personal testimonies from participants and fellows who have returned, who have said that their Masa program have really opened up doors for them, opportunities for them in their personal life, in their career as well. Just having that on your CV, having that on your resume, those sort of volunteering experiences and career experiences and just life experience as well. Masa programs are all about Jewish identity. Being able to experience, the Chagim and the Jewish festivals in Israel is an incredible thing for a young adult, and to really be immersed in the language, the culture, and the people. So that's really what encompasses what Masa is all about and what a gap year program in Israel with Masa is all about as well. So Masa is also an accreditation organization, so it accredits all of its programs. Although our programs are diverse, they do have to uphold to a standard to become accredited by Masa, and that ensures that they are quality programs in terms of their education, in terms of their safety and security, in terms of their Jewish identity values, and personal and professional growth as well. Masa also provides generous grants and scholarships thanks to its funders and supporters as well, which I'll be talking about now. Okay, so in terms of Masa funding, there are two types of funding. There is a universal grant, or we also call it the automatic grant, or a means-tested scholarship. In terms of the universal grant, it is an automatic grant. So if you are eligible, you will receive this regardless of what your financial situation is. And it can range from $200 US to $2,000 US. And it is based on the program type and the program length as well. So generally speaking, academic programs at universities do receive higher grants. It really just depends on, that's just an example, but it just does depend on the program type. You can opt out of your universal grant, so you can choose to not receive it and donate it as well. But you still do need to apply through Masa, and I'll talk a little bit about how to apply as well. In terms of the means-tested scholarship, so those scholarships are up to $6,500 US, which equates to around 9,000 Australian dollars. Again, it is up to that amount, and it is based on family income and the length of your program as well. If you want to apply for means-tested scholarship, you do have to provide proof of income, and that generally is a full tax returns of both parents or guardians, and other proof of income such as statements from Centrelink as well. In terms of the Masa also do request a $50 US application fee, which is refundable after the completion of your program. Also very important to know that whatever allocation you do receive in terms of your automatic grant or your needs-based scholarship, the allocation is paid directly to your program provider, and it is then taken off your program invoice. So it's not directly paid to you, but it is paid to your program provider. In terms of other sources of funding, unfortunately, there is no other local funding, but you can speak to your individual program or program representative about any other sources of funding that they may provide or that they may know about as well. So how to apply? So the first step would be to apply to your program directly. Each program has their own application form and application process. You would then jump onto the Masa website, which is masaisrael.org, and that's where you would apply for your universal grant. And that's the automatic grant. You either complete your application there, or you continue your application, and it will ask you if you would like to continue and apply for that means-tested scholarship. And that is where you would upload your financial documents. So that's the masaisrael.org website over there. And that is where you would apply under the grants and scholarships for your grant, and then continue if you would like to apply for a needs-based scholarship as well. Okay, so when to apply? Each program does have their own deadline, but we do urge you to apply early as programs do fill up their spots. In terms of the funding, we also very much encourage you to apply early so you do know what your allocation is. You know, especially during, Chagim time, they can get a little bit in terms of inundated with applications. But, as soon as you know what program you do want to go on, we do very much encourage you to apply for your funding as soon as possible. In terms of proof of income, so those tax returns for a needs-based scholarship, you do have to upload them 10 days before the start of your program. So just to reiterate, you do have to apply for your funding before the start of your program. That's really, really important. You cannot start your program and then apply for funding. It has to be done beforehand. In terms of Masa's added value, so Masa, in all of its programs, incorporate leadership seminars. It is a global community, cultural events. Really, every single Masa program has to have Ulpan lessons and trips and tours around the country as well. So those are all incorporated into Masa programs. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about Israel during the pandemic. So as Ginette mentioned, we are cautiously optimistic that our programs will go ahead in 2021. Masa's number one priority is the health and safety and well-being of all of its fellows. Being a public service organisation of the Israeli government, it does get updated with all health and safety regulations and requirements that Masa then do from Israel's health ministry, that Masa then relays to all of our program providers that they then have to adhere to. So in terms of those regulations and health and safety and security programs, and this is the case for COVID, and this was also the case before COVID as well, that programs can get spot checked by Masa personnel and government health authorities, and programs, in very extreme circumstances can be fined and possibly lose their Masa accreditation as well. So health and safety really, really is important to Masa, always has been, especially now as well. So programming during a pandemic, as can be expected, programs are adapting and adjusting as best they can. They are functioning with additional precautions, such as participants having to wear face masks, limiting the number of participants on a specific tool when they're outdoors, how many fellows can also share accommodation as well. In terms of overseas trips, they are subject to change. So some programs do incorporate Poland or heritage tours in their programs, as well as other overseas trips, and it is up to obviously each program, but also the circumstances at that time. Health insurance, so very important to understand that must have a strict requirement that all programs must have medical insurance. They must have medical insurance that covered COVID and full hospital cover for each individual, and full health and medical insurance is included in the cost of your programs as well. In terms of travel insurance, we highly recommend speaking to a travel agent about getting the best cover for COVID, traveling to and from Israel and during the Israel trip as well. Furthermore, we are proud to say that Masa has and is continuing to operate successfully on a global scale through the pandemic. Also proud to say that thousands of Masa fellows have chosen to stay in Israel. Many of our 2020 gap year participants who started early in the year, the majority of them decided to stay in Israel and are really making the most of their gap year and their time in Israel. Many have actually decided to stay on and do second programs as well. So that's quite a positive thing as well. Demand for Masa programs is also higher than ever before. We've had globally 120% increase in pre-registrants and fellows who have gone to Israel in the last month or two. Entry into Israel. So in terms of Israel's border, Masa fellows are welcome to enter Israel. That is an exclusive authority for Masa fellows. So the current status is that Israeli citizens and Masa fellows can enter Israel. To enter Israel, they do need a Masa entry permit. This is a new requirement. You might have had siblings or children who have participated in gap year programs in the past, and this might sound very new to you, but a Masa entry permit is a new requirement due to COVID. It is arranged through your program provider, so they will arrange that for you and do all the paperwork for you, but you will need to travel, each participant will need to travel with that entry permit on them and show it at border security. In terms of an A2 visa, so every Masa participant must have an A2 visa because they are staying in Israel for an extended period of time. In the past, we facilitated the visas to be done before each fellow went to Israel and traveled to Israel. That process has changed. And the visas will be processed in Israel once the fellows have successfully landed in Israel. Their program providers will arrange those visas for them. So they will not be arranged here by the local embassy, they will be arranged in Israel. And the same goes with the entry permit as well. In terms of Israeli citizens, if you are an Israeli citizen or you are deemed Israeli, then you do need to apply for an army exemption and travel into Israel on your Israeli passport as well. And that can all be arranged through the Israeli embassy in Canberra. So we highly recommend you get in touch with them as soon as possible to arrange that. In terms of Australia's travel ban and border closure, yes, our borders are still closed, but we are cautiously optimistic that early next year they will open, or hopeful that they will open. But having said that, travel exemptions are being awarded by the Border Security and Australian Department of Home Affairs. So they are being awarded on the basis of Masa fellows relocating for more than 3 months. That is the case because Masa programs are 5 months or longer. And we've had quite a few successful applicants receive exemptions, so we are positive about that. Quarantine upon arrival into Israel. The good news is that Australia has been deemed a green country by Israeli authorities, which means that quarantine is not required for Australian participants. They do still need it, as mentioned, enter Israel on an entry permit and receive an entry permit, but they do not have to quarantine when arriving. But it is also important to note that this is the current situation, and unfortunately things are subject to change, but that is the current situation. Flights to Israel. So there are flights, but they are limited. We highly recommend you book through a reputable travel agent and speak to them, mainly because they can assist with any cancellations, rebookings, and find the best flights for you and make sure that you don't have to transit through a country that will make you have to quarantine in Israel, because the current situation is that you do not have to quarantine if you do not fly, if you just transit through certain countries. So it's really important that you do use a reputable travel agent who can assist you with all of that as well. Some programs might be arranging group flights depending on how many Australian participants they have and if they have enough Australian participants. So speak to your program provider about that. But it is important to know that Masa nor the ZFA are involved in the booking or facilitating of flights. Refunds and cancellations. So each program does have their own refund and cancellation policy. In terms of the Masa application fee, all refunds will be assessed on an individual or collective basis, depending on personal reasons or depending on COVID or depending on any other reasons that you may need to cancel your application. You probably will have your own questions, but I just want to prompt you with some questions that you might want to ask your program representatives in any of the sessions today. So what their programming will be like during the pandemic, what their refund policy is, what their insurance policy is, especially covering COVID, health and safety measures as well, the cost of their program, their weekly daily schedule, which will give you a good insight into what their program is all about. Again, all the program reps are here to help answer all of your questions, which is why this fair is on today. And again, Josh and myself as well. If you do need to contact myself or Josh, or you need help choosing a program or finding a program that's right for you, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Josh. You can call us, you can email us, and please also visit our website, israelprograms.com.au. All our programs are listed on there, so you can have a good browse of them. Please follow us on Instagram. My site is Our Journey Australia. All up-to-date information on all our programs, and also on Facebook as well. Please follow us. Just to end on a positive note, whatever program you do choose and is right for you, we just want to welcome you to the Masa welcome you to the Masa family and the global community that Masa has created. And we are excited for your next adventure. Okay, so we are going to start. I'm just going to check if we do have any questions, and then we're going to start. Okay, so we do have a question about 17-year-olds. No, it's not an issue if you are 17 and wanting to go on a gap year program. We've had many in the past who are 17. There is just a separate process which I can guide you through if you want to email me afterwards. You just have to do fill out a special form, which is a special, essentially an Israeli government form that allows 17-year-old to enter Israel on their parents' consent. Okay, can any grants be deferred if the participant chooses to defer a program? So essentially, the question is, why are they deferring? But if they do want to defer, that's not an issue. If they haven't actually taken that grant or used it for a program, they can definitely reapply at a later stage. That's not a problem. They probably will still have to fill out a new application form, and that old grant will be probably nullified. But there's not to say that if your financial situation, if you're applying for a needs base and your financial situation hasn't changed, that you will probably still receive that same grant. Needs-based allocation. But if you're receiving a grant, it shouldn't really change unless they are over a certain age, and then the grants do get higher and higher over a certain age as well.